Hello and welcome to our first Meet the Writers Live on YouTube. I'm Kathy Evans, the founding executive director of Rhinebeck Writers Retreat. This is our 10th summer supporting musical theater writers with week-long residencies so that they can focus solely on writing. Of course, normally our teams would be in a beautiful home in the Hudson Valley, but for obvious reasons, we pivoted to virtual residencies this summer. So each writing team, each week, the writers are living in their own home and collaborating remotely. Um, I'm so glad that we can support 9 such talented teams developing 9 new musicals. And tonight, you will have a chance to hear from our first 2 teams um, virtually and live. So why don't we bring the 4 writers on to join us? Hello. So we have Maggie-Kate Coleman and Erato Kremmyda for We Will Not Be Silent, and Elliah Heifetz and Jessica Kahkoska for the Death of Desert Rose. And so why don't we tell folks all the far-flung places where you are. Elliah, where are you right now?
I am at my girlfriend's family's cabin in Island Park, Idaho, which is 30 minutes west of Yellowstone or southwest of Yellowstone, next to Yellowstone.
Good.
And her name is Jane Bruce. She'll be singing for our presentation soon.
And Jessica?
I am in Manhattan, New York.
Manhattan. And Maggie-Kate?
I'm in Maryland, in Western Maryland.
And Erato?
I am in Athens, Greece, where it's 1 a.m. And I'm very happy to be here.
So you win the prize for the longest distance. So of course there is some sadness for me that I can't be with all of these amazing writers in person, but at least it's exciting that we can share their work with people around the world. So I did want to mention that in the chat section of YouTube, anyone can ask any questions throughout this program, and we will try to get to those questions. So first, we're going to hear from Maggie-Kate and Erato about their musical. So we're going to say goodbye to Elliah and Jessica, who will come back for the second half of the program.
We'll miss you.
So Maggie-Kate,
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, good to see you.
Hi, Kathy.
Yeah, and it's so great to see you guys. So tell us the story of We Will Not Be Silent and what inspired you.
Sure. Erato, do you want me to start?
Please.
Okay, so this piece initially came out of a commission for a concert from NYMF under the leadership of Rachel Sussman with associate producer Jalen Livingston, who's actually a later Rhinebeck recipient in the summer. We were given a couple of prompts relating to the current political climate. This was a couple years ago. And we were inspired by youth activism and youth resistance, past and present. So we decided to tell the story of Sophie Scholl, who in 1943, she was a young German student, and she joined a small youth-led anti-Nazi resistant group called the White Rose. And she and a small group of cohorts were arrested, tried, and executed for the distribution of pamphlets denouncing the regime. And so we've taken that story and are telling it in a parallel structure with another version, another Sophie, who is living in present day America. And we're sort of using that structure to investigate the similarities and differences between youth resistance movements. and also using that to explore intentional casting of actors with a wide range of lived experiences of race and gender as they respond to present day youth movements.
Mm-hmm. Erato, any other things to add? How about how this moment that we're in today is affecting your musical? Because I think you started, was it 2 years ago?
It did start 2 years ago, where the regressing was palpable, not as palpable as it is today, unfortunately. But we did come to realize that we are probably living in one of these moments in history where we're not progressing, we're not advancing, which is how I personally grew up thinking that, okay, it's probably all going to be going better from now on because we've learned our lessons, which was a mistake, because historically there are always regressing periods, and moments in history where we're called to really think about what's happening and take some action and preserve what we have so that we don't lose it. And it was also pretty painful to research and think and realize that all democracies degenerated at some point and devolved. None went without a fight, and some were saved, and we are hoping that we are eventually telling that story, but we do think that it's very important to dive into the moment very carefully, and ask questions that might help us and the community.
I remember I was rereading your application, which you wrote in February, which feels like eons ago now, but this really couldn't be more true. You wrote, "Patriotism lies in protest. Our present belongs to the future." And that certainly resonates more today than it ever has in a long time.
And I think, and I think that with that shift in current events and in our lives personally, we do feel like a greater responsibility to get it right and to make sure that we're honoring the people whose stories we're telling, both fictional that are inspired, by other resistant movements, and Sophie herself. I think part of our initial attraction to Sophie's story was that Sophie and her brother and friends were not Jewish. They, in some level, like they were denouncing the Nazi regime, but they were also denouncing the inaction of a lot of their fellow Germans, and saying, you can't just look the other way. You can't just sit and wait for it to be over, even if you yourself are living with enough privilege that you will likely survive. It's not right. You must take action. So that's sort of the kernel that we were inspired by, I think, for her.
So would you like to set up, go ahead. Did you want to say more?
Oh, no. Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm happy to set up our first song.
Yeah.
So this is the opening number as it stands now. Works in progress. You never know how that will change. A lot of our lyrics were inspired directly by Sophie's letters and poetry and journals. So this is no exception. And so in this scene takes place in the German timeline. Sophie has just arrived in Munich. She's her brother, or her sibling Hans, and two friends, Alex and Chris, are throwing a small gathering, a small birthday party for her 21st birthday. She's just gotten out of mandatory service and is finally about feels like she's starting her education. And while they're celebrating, she sort of slips up and calls, speaks freely her opinions about the Nazis, and then is nervous because even in a casual setting, that kind of talk could be considered treasonous. And I think is reassured that she's in company that feels the same way. But in the middle of this attempt to celebrate, this attempt at like beginning in adulthood, they sort of examine internally what it means to be growing up in in this moment in time, in this moment in history. Erato, anything else?
I think you set it up perfectly.
Great. So
Okay.
why don't we listen to The Last Days from We Will Not Be Silent.
Oh, can we just say one more thing? This is a demo.
It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and I'm 21. It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and my life has just begun. Open a door, open a book, open your mind. What is it for if you're always looking behind? Another war, another crook, another bad dream. What is it for if your country is falling apart at the seams? These are the last days before the end of the world. These are the last days before the end of the world. It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and I'm 23. It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and I've seen things that I can't unsee. Open a door, open a book, open your mind. What is it for if everyone seems to be blind? Another war, another crook, another lie upon lie upon lies. What is it for if no one will open their eyes? These are the last days before the end of the world. These are the last days before the end of the
It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and I'm 22. It's the 9th year of the Third Reich and I'm still alive. Open a door, open a book, open your mind. What is it for when evil is all you can find? Another war, another crook, another death upon death upon death. What is it for if your country is desperate for breath? These are the last days before the end of the world. These are the last days before the end of the world. These are the last days before the end of the world. Before the end of the world. End of the world. End of the world.
These are the last days.
So, Erato, you wanted to explain that was a demo?
Yes, it was a demo, and I would like to thank our wonderful singers. You just heard Angel Lin as Sophie, Jessie Carrie Chan as Christoph, Courtney Bassett as Hannah and Hans, and Azudi Onejekwe as Alex. and this demo was recorded by Ada Westphal, and we thank them all deeply for their work.
So I have a question for you, Erato.
Yes.
You obviously, as the composer, decided to use rock as the medium. Why did you make that choice for both Nazi Germany and modern day?
Yes, that's a great question. I mean, the short answer is that this is what I felt the words wanted in order to be supported. That's what I felt that's what we felt that would carry the words better. It is right now the score lives in this 90s alternative anthem rock kind of world with a lot of emo touches. It is we do need a palette that can support protest, that can support teenage angst, that can also evoke the violence of autocracy and militarism. That has energy, and this felt authentic to us because we were both in high school in the 90s, so I guess it made sense that we sort of started exploring that soundscape because it felt personal to us, and I do think that so far, but it does seem to serve well both worlds, and it's also highly adaptable. It's a score that we know is going to evolve to include more sounds in the general scope of rock, as you said, but it will be informed by protest music of other genres as well. We were already talking about it, and it's great to it is also conceived to have a band on stage. So yes, it's in progress.
Do they perform also, or is the band just on stage? Are they actors in the musical?
We are still playing with that idea, but we know that we want the band to be more than just the band that is accompanying the action. So they are having a significant dramatic role.
Maggie-Kate, you and I were talking a few days ago about the artist and who said that fascinating one sentence that I thought perfectly summarized your musical.
Yes, it was actually because we had our retreat last week and we were taking a break, and I was watching old episodes of Patriot Act on Netflix, the comedian Hassan Minhaj. I'm a big fan. And, it was supposed to be my downtime, not thinking about the show, but then he said something that related so much to the core of our show. He was saying that people are like, you're living in history, you're living through history right now. Isn't that exciting to be living through history? And he was sort of like, no, living through history sucks. When the thing about history is that it's been written, it's done, you know who loses, you know who wins, you know who the bad guys are, you know who the good guys are. When you're living through it, it feels like things are coming at you from all sides. You don't know whether you're doing the right thing. You don't know whether you're making the right choices, but that there's also hope in that because it's not written yet. There's no ending yet. And to try to, I'm very much paraphrasing what he said, but to try to and I think that's the hope that we're finding hope in our story as well. And in the contrast between these two, the historical moment and the present moment, that in the past, Sophie's history has been written. We know how it ends. It doesn't end well. But in the present, there's there's hope that this resistance movement will succeed.
So we have a question from Mark, which is, where does the music go in the more intimate moments?
So far, I mean, so far, the moments that we have documented in recordings are we have two more two slower songs that are much more esoteric and emotional,
Just
and
introspective moments.
Introspective moments, yes, thank you. They do still live in this alternative rock world, but they're much more lyrical and much less percussive. I'm often not the best person to describe the music because I write it. But Maggie, where would you say the music goes when the
I mean, I think it still is living in that. Yeah, I agree. It's living in that sort of alternative world, but it sounds introspective. It feels introspective. It's those moments, because we also want to explore the moments of these characters. Like, they are young people. Like they're not just soldiers of the revolution. They have hopes and dreams. They have crushes. They have things that they would like to be doing much more than trying to take down an autocratic regime. So, I think that that's also part of the fight against autocracy is not letting it take those moments away from you, not letting art be taken away from you, not letting the hope that you can be seen in a romantic way away from you entirely. And I think that sound-wise, that's sort of the tone that we're going for. You can hear, we have our demos on Erato's SoundCloud, so you're welcome to listen to
Oh,
the rest
wonderful.
if you want to hear those songs.
So
it
go
sounds,
ahead.
I think the entire score sounds like us interpreting these young people filtered through our own experiences. Whether we have to call this alternative 90s anthem rock or whatever, maybe someone else might call it something else, but it is very important for us to check in with our pure young revolting past and present selves.
So we're getting more questions.
And be authentic.
If we could cover a couple more questions before we go to the final song. So from Neil Bartram, one of our sounding board members of artistic advisors, what were you able to accomplish in your retreat week?
So much, and totally a different. We went in a completely different direction than we started. We had a peer advising session, peer mentorship session with Kent Nicholson right on the first day of our retreat. And I think we initially had been planning on sort of like following our outline, writing a lot of songs, and then like finding out what the questions were for our next draft, but sort of banging out whatever we had already conceived of. And he suggested that we use the time. He's like, the history, the past, who these people were. Use this time to figure out what the present story is, and don't be afraid of the fact that you're living in it. And so we dove into a lot of heavy character development, trying to, in some way, worry less about like what's the exact parallel if Hans and Alex were soldiers or medics in, on the Russian front. What would be the equivalent in the modern day? Not worrying about that, but going into a more deeper emotional place to develop the characters from. And we did a lot of research on the historical side about like what their points of access might have been to get, to find their own point of needing to take a stand in this moment.
Now in the current timeline.
Now. Yeah, so that it was immensely helpful.
A question from Lil. How did you two meet?
NYU, baby. The graduate
school.
musical theater writing
program. Yeah.
program at NYU. We became, we're both weird introverts who became like abnormally close on day one and just have been ever since.
Aw.
Sums it up.
From Kyle, how are the two time periods juxtaposed back and forth between scenes?
Right now, they start off pretty separate so that it's like very clearly, this is Germany in 1943, this is present day America. And then as we move forward, the stories, it's hard to describe in this way, but like, it's kind of like the way that the Village works in New York. The streets just go like that at the bottom.
And the songs help toward that direction too, because they start they start clearly in one world, but also very clearly express both. So they also function transitionally occasionally.
I would say a way to think about it is like both timelines move towards the world of the music. That is the connection.
Oh, that's very well said. You're obviously a book writer. So do you want to set up the final song for us?
Sure. So this is actually, like, for now, who knows, but it's a closing number for now. The two timelines merge and are sort of existing simultaneously on stage. So in the historical timeline, Sophie has been tried and is now marching towards her execution, and in the hopes that it will spark a future uprising. And in the present day, Sophie is heading out to march with the same determination in solidarity with this present revolution. And I will say, just a lot of these words were taken really or adapted from letters of Sophie's, but the final lyric and beginning lyric, she says, "Such a beautiful sunny day and I have to go." I just want to point that out because that historically is on record as being Sophie's final words before she was executed, when she was let out of her cell. So we're trying to find that. It's like, it's sad, it's poignant, but also like, it's even in historically in her final moments, she was looking towards the future. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and that leads well to what your artist friend was saying about, at least in the present day, there is hope. And so that's what we're...
Present Sophie has to go somewhere else.
Right. So are we ready to hear? Did you want to say anything else about the demo we're about to hear, or?
No,
same
just that,
people.
Yeah, same singers. And I think we would just say that, like, normally I don't think we would be broadcasting a demo, but we're in weird times, so we're just grateful to them and their talent and for making it sound so good.
Yes. All right.
Somebody had to make a start. Somebody had to blow the fucking thing apart. Somebody had to take a stand. Somebody had to try and get the upper hand. Somebody had to try. Somebody had to die for our humanity. Might as well be me. Such a beautiful sunny day, and I have to go. I am on a raft standing upright above the gray river, above the rushing water that the wind cannot disturb. I am on a raft standing upright beneath the bright sunlight, beneath the burning fire that the wind cannot disturb. I laugh out loud and feel the firmness of my body. I laugh out loud and
darkness, and my voice it will be heard. I am on a star shooting skyward. I shout to the heavens, I shatter the silence, but my voice it will be heard.
Our voices will be heard. We laugh out loud. We are the youth of high treason. We laugh out loud. We are proud of our crime. We will be strong and free. We are the gray river. We are the rushing water that the wind cannot disturb. We are the bright sunlight. We are the burning fire that the wind cannot disturb. We will not be silent. And we are not alone. We will not be silent. And we are not alone. We are the youth of high treason. We will not be silent. We are the youth of high treason. We will not be silent. We will not be silent. We will not be silent.
Such a beautiful sunny day, and I have to go.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Yes.
I loved
Thank you.
I loved the just like the tense punk slash hardcore slash like 90s alt energy. That was so cool. The just not just in the rhythm section, but in the chords and the it's it's like I love that stuff too, and I can tell how much you love it, right? And that's important because otherwise it doesn't work. So that was really awesome. I love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Jessica, any
you.
thoughts? Or?
Oh, I think, the take and the reframe on a historical event that, I feel like some people are very familiar with, other people have probably never heard of, and then just coming in with this new point of view and position on it is super interesting and also really theatrical.
Yeah. Thank you, Maggie-Kate
Thank
and
you.
Erato. I can't imagine a more timely musical. And I'm very honored that we got to support you this year. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
The honor is
And-
ours, and we're forever grateful.
Oh, thank you. And so now we're going to say, just for now, say goodbye to Erato and Maggie-Kate, and they'll come back at the end. And now we'll be hearing from Elliah and Jessica. All right. Hello, you two.
Hello.
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, I have to warn you that if I look up every once in a while, it's because there's a squirrel just living in the second floor of this cabin I'm in. So apologies in advance.
The cabin you're in, as everyone will soon find out, is the perfect backdrop for the musical you're going to tell us about, The Death of Desert
Absolutely.
Rose. Yes. So last week I turned Instagram over to Ellie and Jessica. Thank you for doing that. I love the walk.
We're
through
so
the
sorry,
woods.
and thank you for your trust.
Yeah. So now I'm going to turn over our live YouTube to you two.
Gosh, I don't know why we deserve it, but second chances. All right.
Yeah. So can't wait to hear the story of the musical and a couple of songs. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
before we kick things off, I just want to quickly, first of all, thank my girlfriend Jane Bruce. Yeah, I'm just going to intro her really quickly because this is her family's house, and she'll be singing with me on the performances today. So
We're
thank
very
you.
lucky. Yeah.
And she can't hear anything because it has to be on headphones. So I have to do this now. Okay. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Cool. Bye.
Bye. So yeah, I'll start off with a quick overview of the summary of the show. It's called The Death of Desert Rose. It's a revisionist Western set in the time period in the 1890s in Colorado. And so I'll do a quick rundown of the synopsis. In a Tarantino-esque 1890s Colorado, Notorious bounty hunter Desert Rose Ramsey is well known for her vigilante justice and a good faith alliance with the local sheriff. However, everything changes when Rose receives an order that she must hunt her arch nemesis, Betty Britches McBain, in her most personal bounty yet. With the sheriff by her side, for insurance, Rose embarks on a pulp-filled, heart-pounding journey through the Wild West to find Betty Britches and face her fate. As deals turn sour, friends get hurt, and an inescapable destiny looms, Rose learns the true cost of becoming free. The Death of Desert Rose is a new epic western for a modern theater audience, a wild female-driven tale of outlaw heists, young love, dangerous promises, and hard-won new beginnings.
Yeah. So we wanted to share a little bit about how we approach the show, which has been so much fun to write. I think the starting place and the thing that Elliah and I really bonded over early creatively is just coming up with this big story. So the scope of the piece is really large as far as the land and the depth of feeling that these characters have and the stakes that they're up against. I both write and practice dramaturgy. So for me, the task of reinterpreting a genre and really thinking about what a Western means and what it could mean and what it should mean has been really like electric and exciting for my writer-dramaturg brain.
Cool. So I guess we'll kick it off with the very beginning of the show.
Great.
Is that great? So just to clarify, just because it's, there are a few things that are easy to do on Zoom and a few things that are difficult, I'll be playing and Jen will be singing a few songs. This very opening song, because Jess will be describing what happens and be leading into a scene, we're not going to actually play, but it's essentially background music as will be described. So, as this opening scene is described, just picture some background music.
Okay, great. Song, Once I Was a Dancer. A dimly lit, shadowed dive, the kind of place you gotta know someone to get in. Gaslights line the bar. Mariachi band in a low-lit corner of the cantina plays Once I Was a Dancer as background music. The dance floor is mostly empty, save a few couples slow dancing. A group of ladies are silhouetted toward the back, leaning on the bar. Doors swing open, revealing a stranger in all black. With an air of dignified importance, stranger strides into the cantina. He's clearly a major outlaw as people around him react to his presence. He makes his way through as people begin to dance more and more passionately to the music. He approaches the women at the bar, speaking with them for a bit. After a moment, he extends his hand to a woman sitting with them, her head lowered. She hasn't spoken all this time. She rises and moves with the stranger to the center. They begin to dance closer and closer until freeze. A blood stain blooms on the spot where their chests meet. Unfreeze. The stranger slumps onto the woman's shoulder. She dances his lifeless body out of the room as one of the other women holds the door for her. The dark, dimly lit cantina transitions to the shadowy alley behind the cantina. The woman unties her horse and begins to throw the body over it. All of a sudden, a scrawny boy appears.
Miss?
The woman turns. His face lights up.
Ooh, Lordy, I thought you might be. Are you?
Think so.
And is that One-Eyed Jim?
It was.
They said you might, but I never. He was the worst of them, miss. You wouldn't mind, would you, if I got your signature? Because nobody's going to believe me when I tell them I met.
They won't, huh?
No, ma'am.
Why is that?
Because you're always slipping away. Some folks say you ain't even real. Look, I got a paper somewhere inside. I'll come right back if you wait here.
Come here. The woman rips the wanted poster for One-Eyed Jim from the alley wall. Pulling a jeweled pin out of her hair, she pins the poster to the boy's shirt. If anyone asks, you tell him that's my pin. You think that'll work? The boy nods. All right then. Tell him I went the other way.
I will. Bye, Miss Desert Rose.
The woman mounts her horse as music begins. The truth becomes apparent. This woman is Desert Rose Ramsey, and the stranger was her latest kill.
I ain't on the road to glory, I'm just on the way. I ain't trying to burn it down, just trying to get my pay. I ain't dying, I'm just dying to buy myself another day. Canyons here and canyons there, they go men are everywhere, from the rivers to the plains. They may scare you, but they're jumping in their britches at my name. Ooh, I'm what a hero should be. I'm just here now. Honest work ain't written in the Bible. But try to call me delicate and you will see how delicate my hands with my rifle. I'm a little mixed up, the money's fine, and it all shakes out the end. 2, 3, 4. The band kicks into high gear as Rose breaks into a gallop. The set transforms, revealing the open road, the kind of western landscape that'll just rip your heart out. Shot him down at the railroad junction, knowing to ride the train. Caught him in the act, waiting on the track, so I whistled out his name. Choo choo Johnny. Then I oiled up the engines with his brains. Last up, Jimmy, who could give you a shimmy and you would die for more. How many girls did you toss and twirl and deliver to the Lord? I said, Jimmy, ooh, you ain't never met a girl like me before. Ooh, I'm what a hero should be. I'm just here now. Honest work ain't written in the Bible. But try to call me delicate and you will see how delicate my head is with my rifle. I'm a little mixed up, the money's fine, and it all works out in the end. But still the reaper's appetite to the end of the line. It's trying to be my friend. I know one heavenly day I'll throw away my bullets and my burdens, but a long, long time to push the mind without the help of bourbon. No, I am what a hero should be. I'm just here now. Honest work ain't written in the Bible. But try to call me delicate, you will see how delicate my head is when I snatch you from the branches, when I blast you from the branches with my rifle. I'm a little mixed up, but the money's fine.
That's the end.
Yay!
Yay!
So
Thank
good.
you, Jane. Thank you, Elliah.
Jane, thank you so much. It's so great to have a duet in this crazy live
Yeah, doing it
stream
live.
world. Yeah, duet live.
Yeah.
So so tell me more about what you're coming up on the end of your week now. What did you work on? What did you accomplish? What are you proud of?
Well, this has been so awesome for me. I mean, just being able to clear this time and dedicate, just tell everyone else this is what I'm doing. And with that mindset is really like magical for me. Like whenever I do something like this, it's always super productive. And this has been no different. I've done 4 new songs, I think, in the
It's
last week.
alarming what Elliah has accomplished on the songwriting front.
No, well, it's really truly because of what the circumstances we've been given and how many worries have been taken away from us, I think. And I'm really grateful. Anyway, Jess has also done an enormous amount of work with the note carding. I don't know if you saw on the Instagram.
We came into our Rhinebeck week with like a very mushy first draft, because I think our first draft had kind of been the like get it all down, explore, all of our options, and so our process in this week has really been about organizing and filling in, and we've done a lot of cutting. So it's been great to get to slow down and focus on the draft 1 to 2 jump.
And your peer advisor was someone I admire greatly, Rick Boynton of Chicago Shakespeare Theater, and you were saying his advice was amazing, right?
It was life-changing. Yeah, it was a really I think we mentioned this to you on our conversation before the week started, but it's so cool when someone is able to note your show and to your own vision. And so it really felt like he was inside what we were trying to create and helping us get closer from from that shared place.
Question from Annie: where can she get a recording?
Well, the demo, if we maybe under the table in the black market we can talk, but we were commissioned to write this first draft, and are turning in actually a revision on this draft right after our Rhinebeck week, which is awesome, by SBR Productions. So I know that we've had conversations with them, that if things were to continue, then professionally recorded demos would arise. But we actually got a cool opportunity recently because we did the Dramatists Guild Foundation Fellowship, and since that we can't do a live presentation at the end of the year, they've allowed us to sort of create our own virtual presentation, which we have included demos on a highly produced level into the sort of outline for that. So at the very least this year, you'll have something that's better than my garage band. Whatever.
So do you two want to set up the next song?
Yeah.
Jess, you want to?
Yeah. So the inciting incident of the piece is that Rose receives a bounty assignment from the sheriff, who's sort of her longtime friend and colleague, and it is clear that this is a violation of a pact that they've made together, which is to hunt this woman named Betty McBain. And as the act progresses, we go into these flashbacks and learn that Rose and Betty were childhood friends. They were best friends. They were together on a farm after they were both on orphan trains. And that's sort of the piece of the story that we've really been working on this week. And although Rose and Betty later fall in love, this is a scene that takes place when they are teenagers together, and they're sort of dreaming. They're starting to think about how life could be better. And I think they also see each other in that, but they don't quite have the language in their own relationship for it. So it's about dreaming outside the farm, but then also, dreaming about what could be possible with, the person next to you.
Great.
Yeah. And the song is called Somewhere There's a Train. This is, as opposed to that first one, this is a new one that was written this week, actually just a couple of days ago. And I'm so grateful that Jane learned it so beautifully quickly without sheet music. So, okay.
I have to share that one of the comments was, "What a voice! A female Dirty Harry Clint Eastwood for our time."
Wow, what a voice! A Dirty Harry Clint Eastwood for our time. Someone said about you. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you deserve it. Okay, thank you. Do it again. Okay. So they hear a train, by the way. So like, if you hear any train tracks in my playing, then that's no coincidence.
Somewhere there's a train out in the distance. Never look away, or you can miss it. Somewhere there's an empty car to take us far. Yeah, somewhere there's a train. Somewhere there's a train, and we can ride it, make ourselves a name until we're wanted. Somewhere there's a horse to ride off in the night, and a town to set aflame. We can wear a big hat, double back on our tracks, so no one can find our lair. We'll be the lean, mean desert queen, 17 with knives keeping up our hair. This house might make you feel like you can't change. Somewhere there's a train. I can be a man and grow a mustache, turn a standoff into a bloodbath, gallop on a caballo down to Mexico and live right off the land. See the Texas stars from Amarillo, use guitars instead of pillows. Keep our bodies warm and close so we don't get frozen over in the dark. We can break a bank vault, take it off, throw it off for bad folks just like us. We'll be the best known, show your bones, leave them alone, kind of girls that you can't touch. This house might make another go insane. Somewhere there's a train. Somewhere there's a train. 'Cause outlaws don't follow any orders. It's in the name, they don't know lanes, they don't know borders. And there's a train, there's always a way.
All right.
Wow.
Thanks for having me.
So good.
Wow. So good.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Thanks, y'all.
I grew up on a horse farm, so this
way.
feels like very close to my heart. Yeah, I'm a country girl.
The world is coming off the screen.
Yeah, I just love
coming
the
out,
world.
like, so clearly and so beautifully. Can't wait to see it.
So we have a question from Gigi Bolt, who is also on our sounding board. What was the impetus for the piece? How and why were you drawn to a Western theme?
I think we both have different answers, probably, but you know, maybe we'll each just do 2 sentences. For me, I'm a first-generation American. My folks are from the former Soviet Union, and just from my name to, you know, a lot of things growing up, I was made to feel like I was less than American or other than American. But the truth is, I'm just as American as anyone else. So, you know, from my childhood dreams of being a cowboy and sort of being told that I don't fit and that can't be me, I've always been attracted to the idea that like Western genre things and Western cowboys and folk music and country music were just as much mine as they were anyone else's, and I accidentally fell in love with them somehow.
How about you, Jessica?
I'm from Colorado, and I would say most of my artistic projects revolve around exploring some aspect of the West. It's just is really sticky for me artistically, which is probably just like a manifestation of the homesickness I feel when I'm not there, you know, when I live other places. But to really dig into a story that takes place, you know, in places that I'm very familiar with, and then some new places in the West has been really exciting.
That's great. Beautiful. I really loved hearing both of those songs. We are coming towards the end, so if there are any more questions, please put them in the YouTube chat. And I wanted to take a moment to thank our amazing donors who cover all the writers' costs. This summer, we're giving each writer a $1,000 stipend, free food, and free Zoom Pro. And I want to especially thank the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York State Council on the Arts. The lead supporter for the We Will Not Be Silent residency is Lisa Cole and Ricardo Hornos. And the lead supporter for the Death of Desert Rose residency is Liz Armstrong. So it is so exciting to get to know, even though I already knew these musicals, I feel like I know them much better. I just love this chance to chat with all of you. If anyone who's watching wants to learn more about these musicals, you can go on our website, rhinebeckWriters.org. And you can also learn about our future Meet the Writers live on YouTube. We have 3 more for the writers who have residencies the rest of the summer. The next one is July 25th, and all of that information is on our website as well. So if you would like to support our writers, we would greatly appreciate it. There's a link in the YouTube chat, and there's also one in the description below the screen. And so here's my final goodbye. Did you all have any final words, or?
Just thank you so much.
Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank your donors.
You're welcome.
It was incredible.
We're really grateful.
All right. Thanks so much.
Grateful. Thanks.
I can't wait to see you in person someday.
Yay.
Same here. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.